Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is The Great Initiate. I make it make sense through the lens of yoga, meditation, and spiritual disciplines. I'm so grateful that you're here. Today we're going to dive into this post on Reddit. Has anyone here found real healing through a yoga teacher training? Considering it as a path out of trauma and emotional chaos. Wow, how many of you? Please leave me a comment if you have also been considering this. I would be curious to know those that are seeking to come through an experience within a yoga teacher training that isn't necessarily about becoming a yoga teacher. Let's see what they get into. Hi everyone, I'm here because I don't know where else to turn right now. I've been living with deep emotional pain for years. Trauma, anxiety, relationship instability, insecurity, and constant overthinking. Some days I feel completely detached from myself. Other days it's just emotional survival. I've done therapy, I've read every self-help book, I've tried breath work, journaling, and even a healing retreat recently in Kerala. Oh, I love Kerala. Still, something inside me feels stuck, like the pain is rooted deeper than words. Lately, I've been thinking seriously about taking a yoga teacher training, not to become a yoga influencer or open a studio, just to finally come home to myself, to regulate my nervous system, to befriend my body again, to learn stillness, maybe even to help others one day, but mostly to stop feeling like I'm drowning in my own mind. This person is very clear in their messaging here. I'm wondering if anyone in this group has taken that path, using yoga not just as exercise, but as a serious tool for emotional healing and transformation. Has it helped you reconnect with yourself, find peace, or feel safe in your own skin again? I'm considering YTT programs in Rishikesh, in India, Nepal, or Bali. I'm willing to leave my job as a flight attendant and take this leap if it's truly worth it. I've also been reading about ayahuasca. I know it's very intense and sacred experience, but I'm curious if anyone here has found real healing from it after trauma. If you've done both yoga and ayahuasca, I would love to hear what came first for you and which helped you to stabilize more deeply. I know these are huge questions, but I'm asking from a raw and honest place. I have a daughter, and she's the only reason I haven't given up. I don't want her to grow up without a mother who is fully alive and present. I want to heal, not just for me, but for her too. If you've been on a similar path or found healing through yoga or plant medicine, I would be so grateful if you shared your story or any advice. Wow, this is powerful. Very powerful. I actually don't think that a month-long yoga teacher training is something that would be exactly what this person is seeking and what they need. It all depends on the setting. It all depends on what school they end up going to. What is the nature of that school? What is the tradition? What is the business around pumping out new yoga teachers? A lot of those schools are 30-day programs, and I have been a part of those 30-day programs. And the issue with a 30-day program is that there is so much pressure put on you to be standing up in front of the room teaching that there's a lot that is missed within just developing a practice and trying to understand what that practice is. A lot of the yoga philosophy is at a bare minimum. A lot of the pranayama is at a bare minimum. And a lot of that is just, how can I teach you a sequence so that when you leave here, you'll be able to sequence a couple of yoga classes and understand how to build your sequence, if it is something that isn't a specific sequence, because that could also be a path, like a more classic traditional hatha or an ashtanga training where it's very specific, one pose and then the next. But essentially, in those containers, what's being taught to you is how to do that in a way where you're not going to hurt anyone, where you have an understanding of the body and how to recognize somebody not being in alignment and how to bring them into greater alignment. And unfortunately, in the world of yoga, it is a billion-dollar industry, right? Billions and billions of dollars. And then you weigh that against like the consciousness of humanity, the money that's being spent on yoga, but what is actually being produced from it. Okay, they say here that they have been living with deep emotional pain for years. So yoga is not going to just uproot our pain because we are practicing it for a certain period of time. What you might learn in your training, if the philosophy is good, is you'll start to understand where and how that emotional pain is rooted, how we approach that through the practice, and how we're able to work with that consciously. I don't know that it's something that would be guaranteed that you would kind of get over your suffering within a month, but it would open the door for the deeper yogic philosophies to be able to understand from a yogic perspective the inner workings of the mind and how the mind gets trapped in these vibrational thought patterns that keep us in our suffering and keep us in our pain body, keep us in that place where we're not able to move past and into a state of healing. So that can be a lot of very valuable information. You just want to make sure that you are entering into a space where they're going to share those things with you, and they're going to teach you about yoga philosophy and about these concepts, and that it isn't just focusing purely on the physical. And you've got to dig a bit because it is the business of yoga. So everyone is going to try to sell their program to you. What would be amazing if you had the luxury would be to go and experience these centers, go to these ashrams in Rishikesh. I've been to those ashrams and I've seen very upset seekers, and it's the business of yoga capital of the world, you know, and I love Rishikesh. I love India. My theory around what has happened in the world of yoga that makes me a little bit like, I have a lack of confidence around this person doing a teacher training program that's really going to transform them, is that the whole world of yoga, it just turned a corner at a certain point where instead of focusing on the spirit and the subtle body and the deeper mysteries of our consciousness, everyone just started to focus on anatomy. Everyone just started to focus on the things that they could see and that they could touch. And everything else, we don't want to do that. And if you look at the Instagram consciousness, if I'm projecting yoga, I'm probably going to be like projecting a yoga pose, right? And like a beautiful outfit and the whole thing. Because it's very difficult to project consciousness, and it's very difficult to project the subtle body. It's very difficult to pull people in to the deeper teachings of yoga. And it's much easier to pull you in if I look a certain way, right? If I project a certain way. And that just kind of keeps everyone at this same surface where they're coming into the yoga room, they're being deeply inconsiderate. Nobody is really working in a way that is raising their consciousness. It's like, it's just raising it like just enough, you know, to be maybe a little bit nicer. But what she's talking about is like really using this to transform. And this is possible, but this is something that would happen over a long period of time. A very consistent practice, working with a guru, working with a teacher. And we need to stop being so afraid of having a teacher, because we're running around thinking we're the inner guru and I'm just listening to my higher self, and we're kind of effing everything up. We're not transforming or transcending our pain or our anger or our judgment or any of that. So my theory is that at a certain point, it was like a pendulum, and there was kind of like the woo-woo spiritual yoga, or not even woo-woo, but it was like deep in the tradition, right? The spiritual path of yoga. And then there was this like anatomical, like you've got to know your anatomy, and let's get really into anatomy. And the deeper you go in anatomy, the better yoga teacher you are. And you have yoga teachers that are like teaching anatomically in a yoga class, which doesn't make any sense because none of the students study anatomy, so they don't know what their C4 is, or, you know, this type of thing. But I believe that it was those teachers that couldn't hold the depth of an actual spiritual practice. They didn't understand how to get into that, or it was something that, ew, that's gross. You know, they had some type of reaction. And so they went for the thing that they were more comfortable with, which is the ligaments and the joints and the bones and the fascia and like this kind of thing. And really what we need is all of it, right? We come back to the neutral point, right? We need the meeting point of both, because you have people like this that are coming in your class that are seeking to get over some very deep emotional pain. And if all you're doing is teaching about the gluteus maximus and the core, you know, like that's all you're giving to them. And what you could be teaching her is about the kleshas and about the inner workings of the mind and why she's clinging to that suffering or that fear or not being able to let go, because that is all in the yogic text, which is what makes it so beautiful. I think a yoga teacher training program can be great to what she's saying here, to just come home to herself, regulate the nervous system, learn stillness. It's going to give you that certain consistency of practice. However, there's going to be a huge focus on pushing everyone in that Sangha to graduate as a yoga teacher. So you have to practice the teaching of yoga, and you have to practice all of those things around the actual teaching of yoga. So if that's not actually what you want to be doing, I think what would be better is a long form retreat. It would be better for you to go to like a yoga ashram where you can do yoga every day and you can do meditation every day. And maybe you can also go into some type of nutrition, diet, because it will probably be included. And you can just work on your spiritual practice versus working on doing a teacher training, because that's going to be in there and that's going to be annoying. You're not going to want to do that. And then once you have gone through that experience, and maybe you do want to become a teacher, maybe that's actually in you, you could then take your practice, because you've cultivated it, you have a deeper understanding of the philosophy around yoga, and then you could find a teacher training and go and like work on refining myself as a teacher. Okay, so the ayahuasca, well, this is great. So yeah, I first came to, when I experienced a ceremony, an ayahuasca ceremony, I had had probably 6 years of yoga consistent. I was teaching, I was practicing, I was young, I had a lot of energy, I was practicing all the time. So I was very integrated into my body and very grounded into my body. And I had kind of the world of bhakti yoga, which is the yoga of devotion. So there was a certain vibration that was moving through me before I entered into the world of plant medicines. And I have found that to be wonderful. I'm already grounded. I already have a somatic practice to then continue my healing and integrate my healing. And that was just the way that the cookie crumbled for me. And it was just the best way possible. I noticed that there's a lot of people in the world that don't really know how to integrate those plant medicine or psychedelic therapeutic experiences, and it is very hardcore on the nervous system. It is very intense for sure. She's calling it out correctly. Having a connection to the body and having a practice to be able to integrate is going to help, because a lot of times you don't even know exactly what you are integrating or how to take the enormous experience that you just went through and like bring it down to earth where we are. So yoga is a very grounding practice. It puts us into our body, into our breath, into our center. So I would do yoga first and get really ingrained in that practice before opening the door to plant medicine, and just stay very curious about plant medicine. Ask a lot of questions. Don't rush into it, anyone. Please don't rush into it. Be in your body. Yoga is a pure medicine. You know, it's a pure ancient technology to really be able to sort out a lot of our inner stuff and to find a much deeper and much more heavenly and divine alignment, a much more empowered path in life. I would stick with the practices of yoga. What you want to do is find your place, find your source, start to investigate what are these ashrams, who are the students that went to those trainings, ask about specific trainings, who were the teachers that were teaching in those training centers at the time. That's also very, very important. Reach out to them on Instagram or on social media and say, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. What's your honest feedback? And they'll give it to you. They'll be like, it was great for this and it was not good for this. And see if you can open up those conversations and get that actual feedback, especially if you're not training where you're actually practicing. I have been a part of teacher trainings all around the world. I've led them. I've been a part of the staff that leads them. And my training, I took it where I lived, and it was a 3-month program. And I've also been a part of another training in New York that was a 6-month program. And those students also lived and practiced at that studio where they were training. And that is like a different vibration, because it really becomes your sangha and your community and your home. And so to transplant yourself up and boop into another location can be amazing. It can totally work out. It also can be not the thing that you anticipated. Overall, I wish this person and anyone who is seeking to transform their darkness into light and wanting to do that through the path of yoga, I truly, truly wish you the best of luck and all of the support to come in to guide you to your teachers and your sangha and to deepen your practice. It is just the most beautiful path, and I feel so blessed and so blessed to share it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Are you seeking to do something like this, some type of retreat where you would get the opportunity to just deepen your practice as a yoga practitioner? Is becoming a yoga teacher something that you've been wanting to do, but you're not really sure how to do it? I would love to know if you have any questions about this. I have so much feedback that I can give you, and I truly hope that it's helpful and of benefit. Wishing you the best day ever. Much love and many, many blessings. Thank you. Thank you.